She used to reply swiftly to your messages. She used to demonstrate clear concern. Now, she creates distance, even though you sense, profoundly, that her feelings for you persist. This perplexing shift leaves you feeling bewildered, perhaps frustrated, and undoubtedly wounded. Yet, here lies a fundamental, albeit counterintuitive, truth often understood through a Stoic lens. A woman can indeed actively ignore you and still harbor deep, passionate feelings. Let's delve into the complexities of this dynamic. Most men interpret a woman's withdrawal personally. They conclude, prematurely, that her affection has vanished, prompting a reaction often rooted in panic. They pursue relentlessly, implore, or even beg for attention. But what if this silence, this perceived neglect, signifies not a lack of feeling, but an overwhelming intensity of emotion? Today, we will explore several profound reasons why a woman deeply in love might choose to distance herself, and crucially, how a man embodying Stoic wisdom ought to respond. Reacting impulsively or emotionally, succumbing to anxiety or anger, will invariably push her further away. Let us embrace the path of understanding and reasoned response. Firstly, consider the possibility that she is genuinely overwhelmed by the sheer force of her own feelings. When a woman permits herself to fall deeply in love, the emotional landscape can become vast and tumultuous. These sensations are potent, all-consuming, and at times, even frightening. Love is not always a gentle, predictable flow. Sometimes, within her own consciousness, it manifests as internal chaos. Therefore, instead of leaning into this intensity, she might instinctively recoil. This withdrawal is not born of waning affection, but from a profound fear of the magnitude of her own attachment. Stoicism teaches us not to be swayed or disturbed by the external storm, in this case, her outward behavior or the turbulent emotions she is experiencing, but rather to observe it with equanimity. As Epictetus, the former slave-turned-Stoic philosopher, taught, it is not things that disturb us, but our interpretation of their significance. Her internal storm is her experience, your judgment of it or reaction to it is your own. A woman grappling with overwhelming emotion needs space to find her footing, to breathe, not a man relentlessly pursuing her shadow, which can feel suffocating. By granting her that necessary space, an act requiring patience and inner strength on your part, you offer her the psychological safety required for her to potentially return when she has navigated her internal landscape. Secondly, her distance might serve as an unintentional, or even subconscious, test of your inherent stability and composure. Women, often conditioned by societal pressures or past experiences, are discerning. They seek a partner who possesses a solid inner core, one who remains centered when faced with uncertainty. When she ignores you, when she adopts a distant demeanor, she is, in essence, observing your reaction. Will you succumb to anxiety, spiraling into neediness? Will you beg for crumbs of attention? Will your sense of self seem to dissolve simply because she is momentarily quiet? A man guided by Stoic principles remains grounded in his own being. He understands that his stability is not derived from external validation, particularly not from another person's behavior or attention. As Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, reflected in his meditations, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Her distance is an impediment, but it can become the way for you to demonstrate your unwavering inner resolve. A Stoic does not chase external validation. He holds his frame, calm, confident, and fundamentally unshaken, rooted in his own values and purpose. If you navigate this period by remaining steadfast, you pass a crucial test, fostering deeper trust and respect, not because you uttered clever words, but because you remained solid when her actions sought to shake your ground. Thirdly, she may be genuinely afraid of losing her sense of control within the relationship. Love naturally cultivates vulnerability, and relinquishing control can be deeply unsettling, particularly for a woman who has previously experienced hurt or betrayal. If she is ignoring you, it could well signify a desperate attempt to regain a sense of agency or control over her emotional state. She might be trying to shield herself from falling too deeply, too quickly, fearing the potential pain that comes with profound connection. And paradoxically, your attempts to chase her, to pull her back, can intensify her feeling of being out of control, prompting her to retreat further. However, the Stoic man comprehends that true control is not exercised over external circumstances or other people's actions. As Seneca, another prominent Stoic philosopher, wrote, "We are tormented by incidents which will never occur, or at least will never occur as we feared they would." The fear of losing control is an internal judgment about a potential future external event. True control, in the Stoic view, resides solely within, control over one's own thoughts, judgments, desires, and actions. Letting go of the need to control her behavior, trusting in the value you embody, is the Stoic paradox of gaining control. If the connection is genuinely meant to flourish, she will return when she feels secure within herself. If not, you have simply preserved your time and emotional energy, redirecting it towards what you can control, your own life and development. Fourthly, she might be grappling with a reluctance to feel dependent on you. Some women fiercely cherish their independence. When they develop profound feelings for someone, it can disrupt this cherished identity. They may begin to notice a growing need for your presence, your voice, your energy, and this nascent dependency can feel alarming. The fear of needing someone else, of feeling incomplete without them, can be perceived as a form of weakness by an independent spirit. So, what course of action might they take? They pull back, they create distance, they might even ignore you, not with the intention of causing pain, but as a means of reminding themselves that they are capable of standing alone, that their self-sufficiency remains intact. The appropriate Stoic response in this scenario is to avoid attempting to force closeness or demand her attention. Instead, you respect her innate independence, an external factor in her nature, and continue, with unwavering focus, to build and refine your own inner empire, centered on your virtues, purpose, and self-mastery. This equilibrium, this mutual respect for individual journeys while allowing for connection, is often what fosters authentic, long-term attraction. Fifthly, her silence might be a deliberate, albeit risky, strategy to gauge your character and commitment. She is waiting to see if you will pursue her. She wants to observe your reaction when she withdraws. Will you devolve into begging, becoming desperate and inundating her phone with messages? Or will you continue to live your life with purpose, remaining focused, driven, and notably unfazed by her temporary distance? Women are inherently drawn to men who possess a strong sense of purpose and direction, men whose lives do not halt when faced with minor external fluctuations. If she senses that her silence causes you to crumble, that your emotional state is overly dependent on her attention, the nascent attraction is likely to diminish. However, if she perceives that your world does not cease to spin without her constant validation, that your focus on your goals and principles remains paramount, she is far more likely to return, not out of guilt or manipulation, but out of genuine respect for your self-possession and resilience, qualities highly valued by the Stoics. Sixthly, she may be seeking proof that you are fundamentally different from men who have disappointed her in the past. Every woman carries a history of past pain, disillusionments, and instances of broken trust. When she begins to feel something genuinely profound and real, old wounds can resurface, whispering cautionary tales, "Don't get too close, you will inevitably get hurt again." Consequently, she might employ testing behaviors, including ignoring or distancing herself. Not because she desires to inflict pain upon you, but because she is terrified of experiencing hurt herself. In these critical moments, your response holds far greater weight than any words you might utter. The Stoic man does not react emotionally to her fear or her testing. He responds with strength, calmness, and unwavering patience. You demonstrate your character by remaining anchored in your principles and self-worth, rather than attempting to fix her feelings or alleviate her past trauma through desperate actions. Your stability in the face of her internal conflict serves as a powerful, nonverbal affirmation of your reliability. Seventhly, and finally, in the intricate dance of modern relationships, there can be an underlying tension around control and perceived power dynamics. Sometimes, a woman withdraws not because her feelings have diminished, but because she is apprehensive about losing her sense of agency or control within the relationship's unfolding dynamic. If she feels herself falling too rapidly, sensing a potential imbalance where her emotions might make her feel vulnerable or less in control, she might strategically ignore you simply to reassert a feeling of strength or equilibrium. However, this is where many men misstep. They attempt to convince her, pursue her more ardently, or offer excessive reassurance, and in doing so, they inadvertently concede the very power dynamic she fears. The Stoic man refuses to engage in these power games. He remains true to his inherent value and principles. He does not lower himself to begging to be chosen, for he knows, with quiet confidence, that a woman truly aligned with him will appreciate his intrinsic worth without needing to be pursued or manipulated into connection. His quiet strength and refusal to participate in games affirm his value more powerfully than any pursuit ever could. What you should emphatically never do in this situation bears repeating. While the above explains potential motivations behind her actions, it is crucial to distinguish complex feelings from disrespectful or manipulative behavior. Repeated, intentional disregard or outright disrespect is not a sign of deep love, it is unhealthy interaction. Stoicism teaches self-respect and does not condone tolerating emotional manipulation. Therefore, Here is what you must never do: do not beg, do not engage in excessive, double texting, do not obsessively monitor her social media presence, stalking her stories, and crucially, do not sacrifice your peace of mind or lose sleep over her silence. Let her actions be her communication. Your communication, your response, is conveyed through your inner peace, your steadfast purpose, and your self-discipline. You do not earn genuine love or respect by attempting to prove your worth to someone who is fundamentally unclear or confused about their feelings or intentions regarding you. What a Stoic man does instead is cultivate presence and inner resilience. He observes the situation without attaching immediate, anxious judgments. He practices emotional detachment, not apathy, but the ability to view the circumstance without being consumed by negative feelings like fear, anger, or desperation. He watches the dynamic unfold not with trepidation, but with a quiet awareness, informed by reason. If she pulls away, he does not succumb to panic. Instead, he steadfastly continues the most important work, building himself, refining his character, pursuing his virtuous goals, and protecting his valuable time and focused energy. He sharpens his focus on his purpose, on his disciplines, on his contribution to the world. If she eventually returns, having navigated her own internal landscape, that is well and good. If she does not, he remains on his path, still rising, because his inherent value and his sense of purpose are not contingent upon her attention, her presence, or her validation. This profound inner independence is the hallmark of the Stoic practitioner, and it is precisely the kind of man who becomes truly unforgettable, whose absence is keenly felt, and whose eventual return, or regret over his loss, speaks volumes. Here lies the stark reality: sometimes women create distance even when deeply in love, not out of malice, but because they are engaged in an internal struggle with their own emotions, fears, or conditioning. But your reaction to this external circumstance, that is the critical factor that distinguishes men who are easily swayed from those who possess quiet, inner power. If you remain grounded, patient, and unmoved in your core, she will sense it. She will perceive you as the man who does not beg, who does not break under pressure, and who does not pursue validation externally. A man who respects himself implicitly. And in the end, that is the kind of man she is most likely to seek out again, or deeply regret losing. If this message resonates with you, if it strikes a chord of truth, then it is perhaps time to elevate your mindset. Focusing solely on chasing external affection is an outdated, ineffective strategy. Instead, cultivate the wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance within yourself. Be the man of substance, purpose, and inner strength. Be the man inherently worth pursuing.